The day the company's financial fraud was exposed, my wife, the president, trying to protect her Julian Rhodes, immediately held a press conference, pinning all the blame on me, Sincere Clark, and declared I would be severely punished. Julian Rhodes looked heartbroken. "Sincere, I warned you," he lamented. "You couldn't just embezzle company funds, you couldn't falsify records. Why didn't you listen?" My colleagues stared at me in astonishment, expecting me to defend myself, but I smiled and accepted all the blame, and voluntarily resigned. My wife thought I'd finally seen sense, whispering a promise to me, "Once this blows over, I'll find a chance to reinstate you." Then, she added, "I'll even make our relationship public, as compensation." But she didn't know that to protect the company's interests, Chairman Arthur Pendleton had me install background monitoring software on every computer the day we opened the branch. Extracting that data would expose their lies instantly. Then they wouldn't just face massive compensation claims, but jail time too. Chapter 1. "Clark, do you think resigning settles this? Dream on this fraud of yours cost the company at least $8 million. Back at my desk, Julian Rhodes swept the things I'd just packed off my desk, berating me arrogantly. Colleagues nearby exchanged glances but said nothing. I retorted, "So what do you want?" Julian immediately puffed out his chest, pushing his luck. "Naturally, you need to cover the financial shortfall and make up for the company's losses, and you have to hand over all your projects to us and help us complete them." The projects I managed were practically the company's lifeblood, each one significant, secured through countless hours of hard work. This move by Julian wasn't just about cementing the narrative that I'd embezzled funds and committed fraud. He also wanted to squeeze every last drop of value out of me before I left the company. I turned to look at my wife, Victoria Montgomery. She remained silent, pondering. After a moment, she sided with Julian. "Julian is right," she said. "After all, the company has suffered a loss. If you're willing to cover the shortfall and help them succeed with the projects, I can consider letting you stay." As she finished speaking, Julian's face showed even more unconcealed glee. 6 months ago, when Julian first joined the company, I noticed Victoria treated him differently. She, who never paid attention to new hire interviews, unusually acted as the interviewer herself. Ignoring a pool of excellent candidates, she specifically requested him as her assistant. When I asked why, she said Julian reminded her of my younger self, that she was just giving him a hand, telling me not to overthink it. Later, despite our 7-year secret marriage, she, who was always impartial, repeatedly lowered her standards for Julian. I tried to reassure myself she was trying to compensate for our own penniless beginnings through him. But now I couldn't deceive myself any longer. I scoffed. "Julian Rhodes is just a junior assistant. What qualifies him to take over these projects? And I'm supposed to assist him?" Victoria, surprised by my sudden defiance after years of tolerance, froze. Annoyance flashed in Julian's eyes, but he feigned hurt. "Lufan," he said, using my old name formally but condescendingly, "I only suggested this because you're a company veteran, thinking you could make amends. Even if you don't appreciate it, you shouldn't resort to personal attacks, right?" Then, putting on a pitiful expression, he looked at Victoria. "President Montgomery, if I'm so useless, maybe it's better if I just leave." With that, he turned as if to walk out. Victoria instantly panicked and grabbed his arm. "Who said you're useless? As long as I'm here, no one can force you out then." She turned and scolded me. "Lufan, you disappoint me deeply using your seniority to bully newcomers. Julian works hard and is conscientious. He might be just an assistant now, but I believe with time, he'll be a rising star in the industry." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Since Julian joined, Victoria blindly trusted his abilities, repeatedly giving him important projects to practice on. The result? He botched multiple deals and nearly alienated a long-term supplier. If I hadn't swallowed my pride, gone to apologize profusely and smooth things over, the head office would have known long ago, and these two wouldn't be so comfortable now. Seeing my silence, Victoria assumed I'd realized my mistake. She softened her tone slightly. "All right, Julian was just making a well-intentioned suggestion. This way, we can silence the gossip, let you stay, and give the staff tangible benefits. What's wrong with that? The previously uncertain colleagues suddenly realized what was in it for them. Completing any of my projects would be a significant boost to their resumes. They quickly chimed in. "Lu Fan, you control so much of the company's business. We usually just get the scraps. This is a chance for us to get a real piece of the action, right? Besides, your reputation is ruined now. No other company will hire you if you leave here. Yeah, you should apologize to Julian quickly and ask for his forgiveness. These past years, I worked tirelessly, bringing in numerous deals, making this branch the most profitable under the parent company. Everyone received significant bonuses and rewards because of it. Now they twist the truth, claiming I hogged all the business." I scanned the faces of those speaking. Some were people I'd personally trained. Julian could no longer hide the smugness in his eyes, but put on a show of magnanimity. "Lu Fan, if you apologize to me, I'll graciously forgive your earlier offense." Victoria felt a wave of relief. Julian is truly kind and generous. Even without Lu Fan, I'm confident your abilities are enough to take over those projects and proceed smoothly. She then glanced impatiently at me and whispered, "Stop being stubborn. Take the olive branch. Don't worry," she added. "Once this passes, I'll make it up to you properly and go public with our relationship." But I couldn't help laughing. She dangled that carrot in front of me countless times. I was sick of it. Besides, this time it was clearly Julian who embezzled company funds and falsified the accounts. Victoria covered for him by making me the scapegoat. And now they stand there like saviors, expecting me to be grateful? Do they take me for an idiot? I threw up my hands and said mockingly, "Since Julian is so capable, let him handle everything. I'll wait for news of your success." Seeing my unyielding attitude, Victoria's face instantly darkened. "Lu Fan, you're truly shameless when offered a way out. If you're so determined to leave, then go. Just don't come crying back to me when you can't find another job." I smiled. "Don't worry, that day will never come." She didn't know that the ones who should be crying weren't me, but them. To protect the company's interests, the board had me install background monitoring on every computer from day one. Once Chairman Pendleton saw that data, their lies would crumble. They'd face not just huge compensation demands, but jail time too, Chapter 2. That evening, I packed my belongings at home and instructed my lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. Once everything was settled, I moved into a hotel. Just as I lay down, planning my next career move, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Julian Rhodes. The video showed Julian lounging on the sofa, a coffee table laden with fruit and snacks before him. Victoria was bustling in the kitchen. Dish after dish appeared on the dining table. Through the rising steam, Victoria's image blurred in my mind, eventually becoming indistinct. Then came a voice message from Julian. "Lu Fan, so what if you're married to Victoria? In her heart, I'm the most important one." I just mentioned I was hungry, and she insisted on cooking me a special late-night meal herself. Worried I'd be bored, she bought all this fruit and these snacks, and even put on my favorite reality show. "You've been with her for so many years, I bet you never got this kind of treatment, did you?" He was right. In the 10 years Victoria and I had been together, even the smell of cooking oil made her nauseous, causing her to vomit violently in the bathroom. To spare her discomfort, I always cooked with the windows wide open and the extractor fan on full blast. I strictly forbade her from even approaching the kitchen, but now it seemed no one is truly completely averse to the smell of cooking. It was simply a matter of not loving me, of not being willing to cook for me. However, none of that mattered anymore. I downloaded and screen recorded everything Julian sent. Then, I opened a job search app. Unexpectedly, before I could even edit my resume, Wansheng Group, an industry leader, contacted me, requesting a meeting the next day. I recalled having dealings with them only a handful of times over the years, but their strength and reputation far exceeded even that of our parent company. I thought for a moment and agreed. The next day, I arrived at the agreed-upon quiet cafe. Surprisingly, they had already prepared a contract. Learning I currently had no permanent residence, they even offered me free housing. Every clause seemed tailor-made for me. Seeing my confusion, their representative explained, "Mr. Clark, our group has long heard of your accomplishments and greatly admires you. As soon as you resigned, the group urged us to arrange your onboarding immediately. Rest assured, the rumors circulating will not affect your position within the company." They demonstrated immense sincerity in both professional and personal arrangements. I had no reason left to refuse. After setting the start date, I politely declined their dinner invitation, needing to head elsewhere. Unexpectedly, just as I left the private room, I bumped into Victoria and Julian. They both looked surprised for a moment. Victoria stared at me, puzzled. "What are you doing here?" In our 10 years together, Victoria never knew me to enjoy tea tasting, let alone frequent such places. Julian, jumping to conclusions, preemptively accused me. "All right, Lou Fan, did you find out we were meeting a client here today and deliberately follow us?" I couldn't help a scornful smile. While bumping into them was a coincidence, I did need to speak with Victoria about something. I walked towards her. "I need to talk to you." Hearing this, Victoria's expression instantly softened, like melting snow. A hint of smugness appeared in her eyes, though she tried to suppress a smile. "So, a night alone to cool off finally made you realize you were wrong? Fine, first apologize to Julian." However, I cut her off before she could finish. "Victoria, let's get a divorce." Victoria snapped her head up, staring at me in disbelief. Julian's eyes flashed with undisguised joy, but his words were full of feigned surprise. "Lufan, what are you saying? You're not just saying that out of anger because of yesterday's press conference, are you?" "That was for the company's reputation." I interrupted him coldly. "Whether it was for the company's reputation or your own, you know perfectly well." Julian immediately put on a wounded expression. "I knew it. You looked down on me because I'm just a junior assistant. You've been unhappy with me for a long time. I should just go." Victoria quickly pulled him back, turning to me disapprovingly. "Lufan, when did you become so petty? Julian is just a newcomer to the professional world. If something like this gets out, his career will be ruined. But you're different. You have experience and ability. This is nothing to you. I already promised to compensate you. What more do you want?" How ridiculous. The same situation, yet when it involved Julian, it was enough to destroy his future. When it came to me, it became insignificant. Yet just yesterday, they insisted that if I left, no other company would hire me. They'd argued it both ways, covering all bases. Tired of arguing, I took out the divorce agreement. I said, "I want a divorce." Action spoke louder than harsh words. Victoria finally realized I wasn't joking. Her expression changed dramatically. "Lufan, are you serious?" I nodded. The next second, Victoria snatched the agreement and tore it to shreds. Chapter 3. She gritted her teeth, her attitude resolute. "Don't even think about it. I will not divorce you." Then, as if remembering something, a smug look returned to her face. "Lufan, are you angry with me because I didn't come home last night?" I looked at her calmly, saying nothing. In the past, even slight favoritism towards Julian would make me jealous and complain. Given that she'd made me take the fall for him yesterday and then stayed out all night, she assumed I must be overflowing with jealousy now. Believing she'd grasped the truth, Victoria offered a rare explanation. "My phone died last night, I forgot to tell you. Julian had a bad case of gastroenteritis. He has no family or friends here, so I stayed to take care of him. That's why I didn't come home." Seeing his chance for advancement slipping away again, Julian shot me a look full of resentment but verbally backed her up. "Yes, Lufan, Victoria was just kindly taking care of me for the night. Please don't misunderstand. I remembered when I was hospitalized with stomach bleeding after 3 consecutive days of drinking at 9 different events to secure a project. Victoria had simply said she was busy with work and didn't visit me once. Now for Julian's possibly fake stomach bug, she was worried enough to stay out all night. Furthermore, she saw no issue with a man and woman spending the night alone together. It was simply about who she cared about and who she didn't. Even though she now insisted she wouldn't divorce me, I knew it wasn't out of love. It was because for 10 years all my attention had been focused on her. Whatever she needed, I provided immediately. She had grown accustomed to my unconditional devotion. That's why she couldn't accept me escaping her control. I considered this, about to speak. Suddenly, the door to the adjacent room opened. Out walked Chairman Pendleton of the parent company, followed by Mr. Sterling, the client they were here to meet. Victoria froze for a second, then instantly recovered. "Chairman Pendleton, when did you arrive? Why didn't you let us know beforehand? I could have arranged a proper welcome for you." Julian quickly chimed in. "It's almost lunchtime, Chairman. If it's convenient for you, why don't we arrange lunch?" Chairman Pendleton glanced at them coolly. With such a serious incident happening at the branch, how could I possibly have an appetite? His words made the purpose of his visit crystal clear. Cold sweat instantly beaded on Victoria's forehead. She had held the press conference specifically to push me out and suppress the matter quickly. She hadn't expected it to attract the chairman's attention after all. Julian's eyes darted around, and he suddenly spoke up. "Chairman, you probably don't know yet, but Lou Fan was responsible for the financial fraud." Victoria shot me an apologetic glance, but decisively added, "Chairman, it was my dereliction of duty. I failed to promptly discover that Lou Fan had embezzled company funds and falsified the accounts. But rest assured, I have already fired him." Chairman Pendleton turned to me. "Sincere, is what they're saying true?" For some reason, Victoria's heart leaped into her throat, and she instinctively looked at me. I smiled faintly. "Chairman, President Montgomery is correct. I am indeed no longer an employee of the company." Victoria was stunned that I admitted it so readily, her expression momentarily conflicted. However, before she could feel any sense of gratitude, I pulled a USB drive from my pocket and continued. "But the person who illegally embezzled company funds and falsified the accounts was not me. It was Julian Rhodes." Chapter 4. Hearing his name called out, Julian instantly bristled. You're lying." I ignored him. I walked straight over and handed the USB drive to the nearby board secretary, Edward Dawson. Mr. Dawson took it and plugged it into a laptop. The next moment, all the operations from Julian's computer screen were displayed. Time-stamped recordings showed him repeatedly transferring company money to a private account. Finally, he was seen subtly altering the figures in the final account summaries. Silence fell upon the room. Even Victoria, who had been determined to protect Julian, was left speechless. Chairman Pendleton snorted coldly. "Julian Rhodes, do you have anything else to say?" The evidence was undeniable, yet Julian refused to give up, tears and snot streaming down his face. "Chairman, please see the truth. I'm loyal to the company. It must be this despicable villain Lou Fan trying to harm me he's disliked. Me for ages he must have known you were coming today and deliberately forged this video evidence to frame me." Victoria couldn't help but step forward too. "Yes, Chairman, the company has always respected employee privacy. We've never heard of any monitoring. How could Lou Fan conveniently produce such a video just as you arrived today? Besides, Julian has always worked hard and conscientiously. He's a rare talent. There must be something wrong here. After 10 years together, I never realized Victoria was so adept at blatant lying." Before I could say anything, Mr. Sterling, the client beside us, couldn't hold back a scoff. "This piece of trash, Julian Rhodes, qualifies as talent? President Montgomery, I think you're really losing your touch. Maybe it's time you considered early retirement." Victoria, still in her prime, bristled at his words, her face instantly darkening. But restrained by his status in the chairman's presence, she forced a smile. "Julian has been by my side for over 6 months. Do you think I don't know his capabilities and character? Mr. Sterling, perhaps you've heard some nasty rumors outside and misunderstood Julian?" She shot a meaningful glance at me. Everyone knew I had close relationships with the company's major clients. In her eyes, only I could possibly damage the reputation of her excellent employee, Julian Rhodes. However, Mr. Sterling ignored her, turning instead to the chairman. "Chairman Pendleton, since Sincere no longer works for your company, I'm afraid this partnership might have to be canceled." Before the chairman could respond, Victoria panicked. "Mr. Sterling, what do you mean? Even if Lou Fan is gone, Julian is still here, But she was unaware that the supplier Julian had offended previously was Mr. Sterling's own brother. He already had a very clear picture of Julian's character and competence. As expected, Mr. Sterling suddenly scoffed. "Julian Rhodes? What the hell is he? Does he even qualify to sit at the same table and discuss business with me? President Montgomery, it seems you're not just out of touch, you completely disrespect us." Suddenly accused of being arrogant and dismissive, Victoria's face turned a ghastly shade of pale green. Annoyance flashed in Julian's eyes. His eyes darted around, and he suddenly shouted, "Mr. Sterling, I bet you and Lou Fan planned this together." Chapter 5. Seeing the chairman's gaze also fall on him, Julian grew bolder. "Chairman, it must be Lou Fan. He's bitter about being fired yesterday. So he forged the monitoring evidence and secretly bribed Mr. Sterling. They orchestrated this whole charade in front of you to completely ruin my reputation and President Montgomery's otherwise. How could he coincidentally show up here, specifically bringing that monitoring footage?" Watching Julian's confident act, I couldn't help but think it was a pity he wasn't a scriptwriter. How could he dare use such a low-level tactic in front of the chairman? Yet, unexpectedly, Victoria actually believed him. Her suspicious gaze shifted between me and Mr. Sterling before she finally snapped at me. "Lou Fan, I thought you were just jealous and a little petty. I never imagined you'd stoop to such despicable tactics." Everyone else present was dumbfounded, looking at Victoria with indescribable expressions. I could almost read the word embarrassing on the chairman's face. Finally, unable to tolerate it any longer, he frowned and interrupted. "Enough, the president of a company, screeching like a shrew here. What kind of behavior is this?" Victoria's face flushed crimson, and she tried to defend herself. However, the chairman cut her off sternly. "When we first established the branch, I had Sincere install background monitoring on every computer. You doubt this video now? Are you accusing me of falsification?" Both Victoria and Julian were instantly dumbstruck. Neither had imagined this was the truth. Chairman Pendleton snorted coldly. "As for why Sincere is here, of course, I asked him to come precisely to confront the two of you face to face, Victoria. You have deeply disappointed me." Cold sweat trickled down Victoria's forehead. Her gaze flickered between me and the chairman, seemingly unable to comprehend why I, a parentless orphan, would have such a close relationship with the chairman, even being entrusted with such tasks. Julian, furious and embarrassed, yelled, "You colluded to set me up?" Mr. Sterling retorted mockingly, "If you hadn't done something wrong in the first place, who could set you up? Instead of whining here, you should turn yourself in and face the consequences." Julian was about to curse again when he saw Edward Dawson beside him pull out his phone and dial the police. Just then, the piercing sound of police sirens echoed from outside. Julian's face turned deathly pale. He stammered, You just wait." Before his words faded, he bolted out of sight. The chairman merely frowned slightly, and Mr. Dawson immediately dispatched people to pursue him. Seeing Julian flee, Victoria stood frozen, utterly stunned. Although she knew that if this came to light, neither of them would escape unscathed. She hadn't expected Julian to actually abandon her and run off alone. Mr. Sterling, seeing her state, proceeded to detail Julian's string of good deeds over the past 6 months, including the full story of how Julian had sabotaged his own brother, presenting all the evidence right in front of her. Finally, he asked with a cold smile, "President Montgomery, do you still consider your assistant a talent?" The color drained from Victoria's face, leaving it completely white. Yet she stubbornly refused to believe it. "No, impossible. Julian isn't that kind of person." Chairman Pendleton sighed deeply and turned to me. "Such a stupid person. I really shouldn't have listened to you back then and given her the presidency." Chapter 6. His words struck like a thunderclap. Victoria stared blankly for a moment, then her eyes widened. "Chairman, what do you mean by that?" Chairman Pendleton ignored her. Edward Dawson spoke up beside him. "Years ago, Sincere's mother saved our chairman's life. The chairman has always remembered that debt of gratitude. Later, by chance, both of you applied to our company. The chairman originally intended to promote Sincere to be the president of the branch company, but he refused. Not only that, he attributed all his achievements to you, allowing you to take the position." This was the first time Victoria had heard any of this. She stared at me in disbelief. "Why did you never tell me?" Back then, Victoria was being terribly bullied by the previous president, leaving her exhausted physically and mentally. To help her recover sooner, I made a private agreement with the chairman. I promised that if he agreed to make Victoria president, I would stay with the branch and ensure it became the most profitable division. Unfortunately, that chapter of my career, like our marriage, came to an abrupt end at the 7-year mark. I replied calmly, "It's all in the past. There's no need to bring it up again." Hearing this, Mr. Dawson respectfully fell silent. The chairman glanced at Victoria, growing increasingly angry. "You've turned a perfectly good company into a complete mess, not only condoning employee cliques and slander against colleagues, but daring to fire a meritorious employee. I think you're the one who should be fired." He immediately instructed Mr. Dawson to post an announcement on the company website and internal chats, removing Victoria from her position as president and clearing my name. Finally, he notified HR to terminate both Victoria and Julian. Furthermore, the company would pursue massive compensation claims and legal action against them. Victoria had never experienced anything like this. She panicked, desperately begging the chairman to forgive her this once, promising she would never dare again. However, the chairman remained unmoved. She then ran over to plead with me. "Lu Fan, please help me talk to the chairman for me. If you help me keep this job, I promise I'll go public with our relationship immediately. I'll never see Julian again." I pulled my hand away. "Victoria, you seem to forget. All I want now is to divorce you and be completely rid of you." Victoria refused to believe it. "Impossible, you loved me so much you even tolerated me being so good to Julian before. Now that I've promised never to see him again, how could you possibly bear to leave me?" I felt like I was hearing the biggest joke imaginable. Such a selfish person, yet she actually knew she'd been too good to Julian before? Even Mr. Sterling couldn't listen anymore, and offered a pointed reminder. "President Montgomery." "Oh, wait, Miss Montgomery. You seem to forget that Julian Rhodes will soon be facing jail time. Even if you wanted to see him later, you wouldn't be able to." Victoria pressed her lips together, wanting to say more. But the chairman had heard enough. He waved his hand dismissively, and security guards dragged Victoria away. Her heart-wrenching screams gradually faded, and blessed silence finally descended. Before leaving, the chairman suddenly suggested I take over as the company president. I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Chairman. That company has completely broken my heart. I can't go back to work there. Besides, I've already accepted an offer from another company." The chairman knew that with my abilities I would find a new position quickly. That's why he had rushed here as soon as he heard the news, intending to stand up for me. He just hadn't expected me to be snapped up by someone else overnight. The thought that he had lost such a valuable employee because of Victoria and Julian further fueled the chairman's anger. He ended up venting it all on the branch company, announcing its immediate dissolution. Chapter 7. In the following days, I focused on settling into my new home and new job. To avoid harassment from Victoria, I had already blocked all her social media accounts. I occasionally heard snippets of news. When the branch was dissolved, many employees were apparently still in a state of shock. Upon learning that Victoria and Julian were the main culprits behind it all, they furiously bombarded them with calls and texts daily. As a result, Victoria became mentally distressed and nearly got hit by a car while crossing the street. Later, the parent company pursued legal action against her. However, since she wasn't the primary person involved in the embezzlement, she ultimately avoided jail time. but to cover the massive compensation for the losses she caused the company, she had to sell off all her assets. Combined with her ruined reputation in the industry, virtually no company was willing to hire her. In the end, she could only survive by doing odd jobs. Unfortunately, Julian Rhodes had disappeared, seemingly having evaded capture. I didn't know whether to feel fortunate that Victoria had insisted on a prenuptial agreement when we married, meaning her financial ruin didn't affect me. However, to expedite the separation, I instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. I thought that from then on, we would have no further contact. Unexpectedly, one day as I arrived for work, I saw her downstairs at my new company building. She bore little resemblance to her former spirited self. Her entire figure was stooped, as if she had aged 10 years. The moment Victoria saw me, she rushed over, tears welling in her eyes. "Lu Fan, help me one last time, please. I know you have a close relationship with the chairman. If you just ask him to lift the blacklisting order. From now on, whatever you ask me to do, I'll obey." Only then did I learn that the chairman had indeed blacklisted both of them within the industry. But I still shook my head. "Victoria, we are adults. We need to take responsibility for our actions. I helped you get the president position back then. You were the one who didn't cherish it. I can't help you again now." I turned to leave, but Victoria wouldn't let go, clinging to me persistently. Finally, she threatened, "Lu Fan, if you don't agree to help me today, I'll stay right here and not leave with that." She abruptly sat down on the ground and began to wail loudly. "Oh God, what have I done to deserve this? Meeting such a heartless man, he kicked me out of the company for another woman, and now he won. Had even come home, I had never imagined that Victoria, who always prided herself on her refinement and composure, would resort to making such a public scene. It was peak commuting time, and a crowd quickly gathered, including several colleagues from my new company. To prevent the situation from escalating further, I grabbed her arm and pulled her up, heading away from the building. Chapter 8. Once we reached a coffee shop, Victoria seemed to return to normal. She took a sip of coffee. "Lu Fan, you saw what happened back there. Either you get the chairman to lift my blacklisting order, and I'll live properly with you from now on, or I'll keep blocking your company entrance every day and let everyone know about your shameful behavior." It was her who hadn't come home because of Julian, yet now she was shamelessly slandering me. Even when she had repeatedly disregarded my feelings for Julian's sake, I had never felt she was as much of a stranger as she seemed now. Victoria seemed to read my thoughts, a cold smile playing on her lips. "You must look down on my behavior back there, don't you?" I didn't answer. She didn't seem to expect a response, continuing on her own. "But do you have any idea what kind of life I'm living now? To pay back the compensation, I sold everything I owned. I thought I still had a chance to start over, to earn it all back, but who knew the chairman would be so ruthless he not only forbade anyone from helping me or associating with me, he wouldn't. It even let me get the most basic entry-level job to survive. I've even had to grit my teeth and accept street-sweeping work." Her story was wretched, yet my heart remained unmoved. Perhaps the love was truly gone. I couldn't even muster basic sympathy for her. However, to prevent her from disrupting my future work, I decided to help her this one last time. Seeing me relent, Victoria's eyes instantly lit up. "Lu Fan, I knew you were the best, don't worry. As soon as I find a new job, I'll settle down properly with you. We'll have a grand, magnificent wedding and invite all our friends and family." As her plans grew increasingly outlandish, I couldn't help frowning and reminded her, "Victoria, we are currently separated." Victoria waved it off nonchalantly. "Separation doesn't mean divorce. We have 10 years of history between us. There are still plenty of chances to start over." Because Victoria had consistently refused to sign the divorce agreement, the divorce decree hadn't been finalized. Further words were useless. I directly presented the lawsuit documents, along with all the videos and messages Julian had sent me back then. I told her, "Victoria, this is all evidence of your past betrayal. Combined with the testimonies from Chairman Pendleton and others, It's enough to prove our relationship has irretrievably broken down. The divorce judgment is just a matter of time. Consider your options carefully." With that, I stood up to leave. Victoria refused to accept it, quickly chasing after me and grabbing my arm. "Lufan, nothing happened between me and Julian. Back then, it was only because he reminded me of the old you I couldn't help but—" I let out a cold laugh and retorted, "So, if I see a girl who strongly resembles the old you, does that mean I can get entangled with her too?" Without thinking, Victoria snapped back. "Of course not," I looked at her quietly. "See? You can't accept it, yet you keep trying to make me accept it. Victoria, let's leave each other with some final dignity. Let's end it here." Victoria was about to say more when her gaze suddenly fixed on something behind me. The next second, she forcefully pushed me aside. A flash of silver light, a knife blade plunged straight into Victoria's abdomen. I whirled around to see Julian Rhodes standing beside us, reeking horribly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he glared viciously at me. "Lufan, it's all your fault. You're the reason I'm like this. I'll kill you." "Go to hell," yelling. He wrenched the dagger out and lunged at me again. Fortunately, nearby residents had already reacted, rushing forward to subdue Julian. Others checked on Victoria's injuries, dialing for the police and an ambulance. In the end, Julian was arrested, and Victoria was admitted to the hospital. To repay the debt I felt I owed her for taking that knife, I went to visit her. Having just been pulled back from the brink of death, Victoria stared out the window at the leaves, lost in thought. Hearing me approach, she turned her head. Seeing it was me, a smile touched her lips. Sunlight streamed onto her pale face. For a fleeting moment, I saw a hazy image of the much younger, more innocent Victoria from when we first entered the workforce. But the moment passed quickly, and reality returned. Victoria patted the edge of her hospital bed. "Sit." I shook my head. "I've paid your medical bills, and I've already spoken to Chairman Pendleton's office. Don't worry, once you're discharged, you'll be able to return to a normal life." Victoria seemed indifferent to this, looking directly into my eyes. "Lufan, I was lost for a while, but after this experience I realize I've always loved you the most, even if you don't plead with the chairman. For me, I want to start over with you. However, I simply handed her a divorce agreement, my expression calm. "Victoria, we can't go back. For the sake of the 10 years we once shared, let's not end up confronting each other in court." Victoria stared at the agreement. Tears began to fall, drop by drop. After a long silence, she finally slowly signed her name. I knew in that moment the toxic entanglement between us was finally over, and I was about to embrace a new beginning, the end.